So, hello everyone, Modern here, good morning. I want to do a Peacemaker review now. Yesterday, I binged Peacemaker to 1 to 3 then to rewrite, and it was great. Freaking love it, right? And, I get fooled by my, waifu wall, right? I would also make a pretty good DC comic guy. I know this is a comic guy, obviously I know Marvel comics. I've been reading DC for, 30 years, reading Hellblazer, right? All the Vertigo comics and so on, right? So I know Marvel's comic too, okay? I'm a nerd, okay? I'm an actual nerd. I used to have a DC and Marvel channel right back in the days. And I say that because the first thing in this review I feel talk about is, of course, do you have to have seen the previous movie, right? So Peacemaker is about Peacemaker character, of course, following immediately after Suicide Squad, the movie, the second one, right? And so yeah, you kind of have to have seen the movie, but not really though. I would say that this thing, episode 1 is the one where they're gonna refer right to Ratcatcher, Harley Quinn, and so on. But otherwise, you don't really have to know the storyline from the movie to kind of get into this TV show. I think so, actually. That being said, though, I think it's a great movie, right? The second Suicide movie. The first movie is pretty terrible, but the second one is really good. And this TV show, episode 1, is of course gonna spoil the ending of that movie. They're gonna spoil the Rick Flag thing and so on. Right? They're gonna spoil that stuff as well with Peacemaker. Yeah, they're gonna spoil that. So that's kind of like almost the biggest reason you watch the movie before you watch the TV show, right? Because otherwise it's gonna spoil for you the movie, right? It's a great movie. Again though, the first one with Smith and so on, that's not a very good movie. that movie is. I remember I said it shortly, but I was on. This podcast, I didn't do this podcast, just after I watched that movie. I was on a date, and I watched that movie. Yeah, this is way back, before I had a channel here, right? Whatever. And they asked me, what do you give the movie? And I was like, 6.5 out of 10. And the reviewer, the interviewer asked me, he told me that that's the most boring score. So he's telling me that it's not terribly boring bad, so it's like funny bad. It's also not very good. It's like, yeah, but it was kind of like, it's in the middle. But yeah, the first movie I felt was like really truly in the middle, right? Like, it wasn't bad enough that I was like, it's so bad it's good, and it wasn't like boring that I was like, it's just kind of boring. But neither was it very good. So it was that kind of movie. I was like, I took a 6 something out of a 10. It's like it's so mid that it's mid. It's so mid. It's the definition of a mid movie, I feel. But anyway, second movie, that's really good. From, of course, James Gunn, right? And I'll say it here then, if you don't like Guardian of the Galaxy, Volume 1 and 2, which I will admit here, I'm biased, Volume 2 is my favorite Marvel movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it's the best movie they had, with John Doe's all right, action scenes, the comedy, everything. So almost I'm biased and a fan of James Gunn, right? But if you don't like those movies, nor than Suicide Squad 2, or The Suicide Squad, or whatever, right? You're gonna hate this show, because this show is so oozing of director James Gunn. Like it's just everything is in those movies is more of it, right? Like I'm not gonna spoil too much here, but this will be like a very very mild spoiler review. I'm not talking about the bigger things here and so on until later. But there is this scene, probably the possible fit so on. And there is this sex scene in the first episode, okay? And I'm not against that or anything, right? Obviously, I'm also into anime, so how could that be, right? But it's kind of like, you watch but it's just like a James Gunn thing. You're watching it, and it's basically like, there's like a fight scene in the forest, and the next scene is like, suddenly someone is doing it. You're like, what? Is that naked sex scene with Yoshida? It's kind of like that, and then in episode, I think it was 3, 3, they have like a 3-way or something. It's like, and also suddenly it's the same thing. Someone is fighting over there, and suddenly it's like another sex scene. You're like, okay. But that's kind of weird, the comedy and the sense of how James Gunn directs. I think at least makes it really fun, right? Because it's just so unexpected, so unpredictable. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can imagine it happening. Let me first say this. It fits the character, of course, right? It fits the character to just go and smash, right? It fits the character to go and smash. So it doesn't fit out of character, so it works, right? But at the same time, it's just, both of those sex scenes just comes completely out of nowhere. Like, you don't expect them to, start and also be so visual, right? And that's why it's also becomes kind of like a weird, dark comedy. See, you're kind of laughing at it. You're like, it's kind of cringe laugh. What's happening? It's pretty funny. Yeah, like it's... And most, though, of that being said, it's kind of like that, right? So, for example, when Peacemaker goes home to his father, And suddenly, so immediately it's a minor spoiler, and he goes into his father, and they're like a normal house and so on, right? They're eating some kind of cereal, and they're like, yeah, dad, life is shit and so on, right? And then suddenly his father's like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll give you a new helmet, right? And he opens the door, and suddenly it's like this sci-fi universe with like flying teleport door, and like, what's happening? It's like, here's the sonic boom helmet, son, here's the anti-gravity, and here's this shit, I got all the powers here. Yeah, you're like, I guess his father has like a secret Batman cave or something, it's just out of nowhere, right? Like, so it's a lot of that stuff happening, right? But obviously, it's like constantly. But anyway, so I really like it, right? The comedy really works for me. But I will say this thing: I can easily see how some people are gonna dislike this show, right? Because like what I described to you, that's basically the whole show, right? The whole show is like this random, kind of like crazy stuff happening, right? Out of nowhere. We also have this like really short judo master that's like supposed to be like a midget, I guess. Something a little person, right? With like a super badass martial arts skills, and he kind of appears and he has this weird ki scream at them and jumps around and there's like a luchador flip at them or something. More so than you do, I think. But anyway, it's just kind of random. I was not nowhere, right? And of course, his best friend, Vigilante, is like, oh, I kill everything. Children sometimes, this thing, and of course, a lot of the comedy comes from that complete callous lack of empathy, sympathy, right? So Vigilante is like, I kill people all the time. Most people are like deserve to die. Yeah, and he's like, and the young one is like, I kill people all the time, and they all like they should die though, except those children I killed. They're probably innocent, but otherwise people I killed, they're all, yeah. A lot of the jokes, arguably all the jokes, are kind of like that, right? So, but I liked it a lot. But as I said, I can really see though how similar to again the old previous James Gunn stuff, right? Like for example, then especially Suicide Squad, the latest movie. Certainly, some of the comedies probably like, I think either you like it or you don't, right? Honestly, which is like a very stupid way to say anything, but I don't think so, right? Because you have comedies, for example. I know people are gonna say that, oh, I hate this show, whatever. But let's say Friends, okay? So classic TV show, right? I watched Friends, growing up, right? Of course, a great comedy show. And I think Friends is one of those comedy shows where I feel most people like it, right? My mom likes it, my dad likes it. It's one of the shows that everyone kind of like. It's kind of casual, right? It's kind of in the middle of joking, the apex of kind of like comedy, right? In that sense, it doesn't really try to go anything extreme in either direction or whatever, right? It's not an edgy comedy. And there are also people saying that, oh, that comedy is shit, right? It's all the contrarian, right, so to speak. But like Friends, very popular, right? And the reason it's very, very popular is again, of course, because this quite mainstream kind of non-really edgy jokes, right? Yeah, but they take something like this comedy show then, because mostly it's a comedy, and that's why I think. Again, I love the show, but I can see people hating it, right? Because this show then, of course, thought about has sex jokes, right? Has weird murder, gore jokes. It has a lot of this, very dark jokes, right? So this show is very, very extreme, right? It's very, very on the edge. It's very much that. And those kind of jokes, I truly think, are more binary, right? So when I said earlier, either you like it or you don't like it, I think it's much more true, right? Because I think with Friends again, with Friends, a lot of people love it, and a lot of people just kind of like it, right? Everyone's kind of likes it, right? Except a few contrarians. People kind of like it. But I think in this comedy show, that would be honestly, because I'm trying to be objective, as I always am, right? That I think that people, either you're gonna be like me and you're like, oh, it's 10 out of 10, this is so goddamn funny, or you're gonna be like, this is appalling and this should not be on TV. I feel it's one of those two things, right? Because this show is very, very dark, and then it becomes very, very on the edge, and that of course makes it very binary, right? Either, I think so, honestly, either you're gonna love the show or you're gonna hate the show. That's probably my the most objective, fair view I could make, right? It's like, but honestly though, I think that's the main thing. Anyway, let's do some spoiler reviews then. Of course, it's only episode 1 to 3 here, right? We haven't watched more than that because we binged it yesterday, and of course we watch it next week, so on. As well, I'll probably be another review then when it's over. I think in 2 weeks. I think next week is 2 episodes and 3 episodes. But anyway, so first of all, the spoiler warning now. We're not getting more spoilers. Right? Episode 1 was the weakest though. Episode 1 was like a little reminiscing of the movie. That was fair. And then kind of like mostly just comedy, right? Like I didn't feel the storyline really took off in episode 1 until of course the end when he had the sex with the monster. so yeah, like that until that point. I didn't feel much happen in episode 1, but then something a lot of then it's like bam bam, and then it was like bam bam, and then shit happened right in episode 1. So that it was the weakest episode definitely, but I think it was fine because like you're introducing Eagle, right? Introducing Vigilante a little bit, introducing his normal his alter ego, what do you call it? His normal personality. You introduce, of course, his father, super mega racist dad, right? White Dragon. I do love his name though. He's like that's a comic character, right? And I love his name because obviously it's like White Dragon. So it's like that guy is super into white stuff. So that's interesting, right? And showing off the team. You see a little bit that it's like Amanda's daughter and so on, right? So yeah, I think episode 1 was fine. It definitely was the weakest of the 3, but again, introducing all the characters and setting up the how they are related to each other and so on, right? So it was fine, right? And then in the end, of course, shit hits the fan, right? And first of all, the sex scene that took me for a spin. I was like, he just got of course Hawthorne just reacted him, right? And then the next scene you have this banging scene with Sheena, and it was very visual, and I don't mind. I'm just like, this shock value, but at the end that's James Gunn, right? So I just laughed at it. I just thought it was really funny, and that was the best. No, the best thing was probably when Eagle hugged him. Yeah, when he was like, he's hugging me, Dad. Take a photo. He's hugging me. He did it. He did hug me. No, that was probably the best scene. And then it was really this fight scene, right? When he fought her, and it's pretty good choreography, so right. Well, one thing I'll say before I go into episode 2 here is that of course the opening is amazing, and that's one of the things you love with James Gunn. I feel like because it reminds me, of course, of the Guardian Inferno dance, right? Yeah, you watch the opening, and like. And obviously being an anime fan too, I'm like, this feels very anime. You have all the characters doing a cool dance. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is nice. I love the opening, but that shit. But honestly, I'm surprised, I said the side note here, I'm surprised that less TV studios does things like. Because obviously, I did a lot of opening reviews and reaction last week, right? Because I had Attack on Titan coming, we had the new One Piece, the new Boruto, so we had a lot of new openings, right? The new trailers, whatever, right? To talk about an anime, manga, and so on. And they get a lot of views, right? Not just for me personally, like thousands of views, but I mean, it's like, the actual opening get millions of views, right? Attack on Titan and so on, rumbling and stuff like that. So yeah, I also never understood that because in the Japanese anime and also TV shows, especially the anime, it is a huge thing, right? To produce these like badass openings, like again, especially the rumbling this year. And obviously people do it right, people like me review it, do reaction to it, right, and so on. And it gets a lot of, variety, right? Of course, it makes them sell more stuff, right? So yeah, Peacemaker here is a really fun opening with every character dancing, right? And again, it feels very James Gunn, and I think it was a great opening. And I really wish, I wish more live action stuff would be doing stuff, yeah. And I don't get why they don't, right? Because immediately, I think I had it here, but certainly this Peacemaker opening has probably millions of views, right? I see it on YouTube. It has. No, yesterday. Let's refresh it. Okay, it only has like 300. Okay, actually, it's surprisingly low. I will admit, not even a million views yet, but it's only been published for half a day or something. It's only been out for like half a day, I guess. But still, though, right? Like it's a good commercial, It's a good, like it's a good number of views there. I expected that more, honestly, but still, though, 300,000 views. I think they published it like a few hours ago, and I will do the video here. So like it's free ad. Oh, not a free ad, but I think it's pretty good ad, right? So I think more studios should do that, like we did here in Peacemaker. But anyway, let's do episode 2 then. So episode 2, now the story is starting to happen more, right? He's in trouble. Peacemaker has to escape, of course, because he don't want to get arrested. And he immediately see more of the comedy too, that like, Economus, whatever his name is pronounced, has accidentally put the car on his father, right? So he goes to jail instead and so on. But that's kind of funny, and of course that opposite going to come back and bite him in the ass, right? Which you see later that everyone is like worshipping White Dragon, right? But he's almost like a super, like evil racist leader, right? And it's like he's inspired by like KK as well, right? So he's like has all this like white people in prison supporting him, right? So it's probably gonna come and bite him in the ass a lot, right? The comedy was pretty fun, but also, I mean, it's gonna come and bite him in the ass, because obviously now White Dragon's gonna escape or whatever, right? And he's gonna have his like army of goons with him, so it's obviously gonna come back to them. But but the comedy was pretty fun too, and you know, it builds up this butterfly thing that we finally see later on what that means, but. It's an interesting dynamic in the show, right? Because they don't trust him at all. And we get into Vigilante stuff. The crying scene, I found was a really good scene, actually. Because, yeah, you do feel sorry for Peacemaker in this weird way, right? He's not really like a sympathetic... he's obviously some kind of like anti-villain or something. He's not really an anti-hero either, right? He's more like an anti-villain, if anything. And you do feel sorry for him, obviously, in his quirky way, right? And then you see him crying there, and he's lying on the bed, and it's like, I was just doing face exercise, but yeah, you kind of have this feeling that, you know, his father is obviously super evil, right? And trained him to be like an assassin or killing, I don't know, black people or something, sometimes black people and so on, yeah, that's what they mentioned, right? But he instead wanted to be like a lawful, extremely lawful good, right? He's killing everyone for what is, you know, right? Yeah, and Vigilante the same thing too, right? So it's interesting. I have to say, I don't really feel sympathy for him, right? You know what I mean? He did do a lot of stuff, obviously Rick Flag and so on in the previous movie, and you don't really feel like Peacemaker is this character where you're like, oh yeah, I understand him. But I think that episode 2 especially, and also episode 3, does make it work a bit, right? Because you feel somewhat sorry for him, a little bit. And it's also the way that, it's like she says and talk about him, that he's kind of like quirky, sad character. You watch him and you feel a little bit like he's kind of like, he's like a really stupid guy in a way. You kind of feel, you know, sorry for him for being like a tool, I guess, both for the government and for his father and so on. So you have a little bit of sympathy for him, even though it's not feel like a very sympathetic, impulsive character, really, right? But it was a little bit. It was a little bit. And I think that could be interesting in the coming episodes. Like, I mean, you still care about Peacemaker, don't get me wrong, I don't care about him, I don't want him to die, right? But at the same time, he's like a murderous sociopath kind of guy, so you don't really feel that much for him. And, you know, that's one thing that the TV show does pretty good episode 2 there, because it's like, he's like a kinda likable main character. He's a likable main character, right, in this like douchebaggery way, kind of a Deadpool likable character. He kills people and you kind of laugh at it, you know. But he's not like a likable character as in a heroic, you know, John Cena babyface way. He's not a heroic like Spider-Man way, right? More like, well, he's kind of like a funny murderer guy. Yeah, he's like a funny murderer. So, but a little bit like that. What I feel, when I think about it, I think it's interesting because yeah, I do kind of like it. But you know, one character I like was Vigilante, especially episode 3. You come to that now. Yeah, Vigilante I think is really funny. And he's obviously also like, I killed a lot of people. But I think that's what this TV show, I mean, does pretty well. So they have this scene, right, where Vigilante is hiding behind a dumpster. And that's what I feel is like, this makes him likable, even though he's like some kind of deranged sociopath that has killed thousands of people, right? But of course at the same time, he does only kill people that deserves it. Kinda. You know, most of the time, he only kills bad people. He also kills some innocent children or whatever. But, you know, it's like, there was an accident, you know? So, he stands behind his dumpster, right? And they're gonna go into the mission. And they're like, what is he doing? He's like, why is he behind the dumpster? And he's like, I'm a normal dumpster guy? They're like, what is wrong with you? Like, I'm not saying it's wrong with me. You don't know me. I'm a shrink behind this mask. I love this. That's kind of like I really love right in his comedy. And he's like, I'm a therapist or like a psychologist under this mask. You don't know who I am. Yeah, you don't know who I am under my disguise. I might be an expert on the mental states, right? And I telling you that standing behind this dumpster is normal. Yeah, it's completely normal. That kind of dialogue, right? And I was cracking up. That was really funny. And you know, I think Vigilante really worked because you watch him and you just kind of laugh at him. He's this silly, you know, crazy murderer guy, right? But of course, what in the both him and Peacemaker then do, right, as I mentioned, is that maybe not sympathy is the right word for it, right? But you do feel like, I guess, likable, somewhat likable, right? Because yeah, like you do look at them and you're like, well, I mean, it is kind of like he says though. He only kills people that deserves it, right? He only kills people that are evil. Sure, then he also kills some good people because because of the lawful alignment, right? But you know, again, it's like you said, like, yeah, I want to kill the bad guys, and sometimes I kill good people because I'm an idiot. But you know, it's like you still kind of feel like, yes, these two are the bad guys. They're the main characters, right? But that's one thing for that matter people never understand. It's so hilarious. You see, for example, in the Crossover Wars, are so bad on that. That you can be the protagonist and be evil, right? You can be the antagonist and be good. The protagonist is just the protagonist, the main character they're following. And the protagonist can be a sociopath that kills everyone, you know what I mean? That's still the protagonist. I've seen, for example, Tanya the Evil. She's still the protagonist. She kills like millions of people. She's still the protagonist, but she's the main character. You're following her on a journey, or him then, as a woman, right? Like, you're slaying, genociding countries, right? But it still is like, that's the main character, that's the protagonist. But especially, we'll see it next week, because next week we have the Anime Wars coming, but Anime Wars last year, they're so pathetic in the sense that because every year, they've done 3 in a row, I believe, every year they're like, oh, here's this bad guy, you know, that is like Eins, okay? He's like this Isekai, OP, your main character, and they put him in the antagonist, right, top antagonist, but he's the main character, he's the protagonist. It's so silly. And I see a lot of people too, right, that people can't understand that you can have an evil protagonist, because protagonist, antagonist, and determinist, so on, is not defined by evil or good, right? It's defined by who is in the narrative sense they are. So Peacemaker, of course, is the protagonist, like objectively speaking, like that's obviously the protagonist, and you know, Vigilante is like the, I guess, like by the secondary protagonist, by protagonist, yeah, a little bit like something like that, or his psychic, you know what I mean. But they're both somewhat evil, right? Yeah, they're both somewhat evil, but they still are protagonist. But trust me, it sounds so crazy to me, but I've seen it so many times that people are gonna still talk about, oh, Peacemaker, he's a great antagonist or something, because he kills people or something. That has something to do with it. It's so weird. I don't understand how that's... I see it all the time with people. It's so weird. But anyway. But important thing about, right, that it's important thing about, because when you make a TV show, you almost always have to have a likable protagonist, of course, even if it's evil, right? And the crying scene and the vigilante, like, dumpster scene and the bush scene later on and so on, are scenes that I think are funny, and they definitely make these, like, you know, evil, so to speak, then protagonists is likable, right? And so that's a good point to have, right? Because otherwise it's gonna be hard to watch a TV show if you're following two, like, mass murderers, right? You're like, yeah, I mean, they're mass murderers and they just kill people. That wouldn't be, maybe it would be good, but it'd be kind of hard to like them, right? But then you have this weird comedy in this anime, that I have a TV show. And you're falling asleep thinking about the anime watch. Sorry about that. And, you know, you have this, like, all this comedy in this TV show. And that, yeah, it makes them somewhat likable, right? So you're like, you know what, even if he has killed a lot of people, I kind of like him. So, you know, let's go on, right? And especially, let's talk about episode 3 here, then, when they get captured in episode 3, then, that also was just kind of funny, right? But also was really stupid, though. So, it was hilarious. It was hilarious. He, like, captures them, started torturing Vigilante, and Peacemaker is like, that's right, do it more! I will never tell! It's like, no, please tell! Like, I will never tell you! It made no sense. The bad guy is like, yeah, you humans are famous for your empathy! He's like, that's right, we all keep torturing him. I care about him. It's like, I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, so, I mean, basically, he just gets tortured by the bad guy, right, Vigilante. But Peacemaker doesn't care, because, you know, they're barely friends, right? Because he always keeps saying that, you're my best friend, you're my best friend. So, yeah, he's barely cares about his pain, right? And it made no sense that the bad guy is like, I'm hurting him, what do you feel? He's like, I don't feel anything. Yeah, I don't care about him at all. But I don't know, yeah, it turned out to the bad guys are butterflies, right? There's some tiny insects inside of... Well, what are the humans then? Are they like some kind of flesh golems? I don't know, flesh robots. And it also, of course, points to that Peacemaker had sex with, like, a flesh golem or something. Yeah, like I guess so, right? In episode 3, it is revealed that, of course, the big spoiler here, whatever, that they are some kind of alien, something like inside of humans, or, I mean, so either they have, like, taken over human bodies. That could be a thing. Probably makes the most sense, right? Like, there's kind of insects, and they kind of go inside the human body and take over them. Like, go into the brain, right? And they kind of take over the brain, something inside of that. And that's how they have these different positions, and there are a lot of them, as in the last episode. Or they have built these humans, right? That's some kind of like androids of sort, right? Some kind of robots, human, look like a human, flesh or something. But yeah, I guess Peacemaker had sex with one of those things, yeah. And also sound very good for his pee-pee. But probably makes more sense if they are primarily have taken over human bodies. So I guess he had sex with like a human, I guess, like she's a human partially, right? Like the thing that he went into, so to speak, is human, I guess, right? And like the brain is like conquered by this bug or something, right? That's probably how it is. I'm just guessing it for his sake. But anyway, yeah, that's revealed. And it is kind of annoying, I agree with him, that they never told him. Yeah, they're like, we can't tell him about Butterfly. And there was a massive mistake, and I think it's a little silly. And I don't think it ruins the show, but... So in the episode, he's gonna assassinate the senator family, right? And of course, they're assuming that they all are aliens, or whatever they are, but it's some aliens. So they're all assuming they're aliens, right? He's like, take the shot, kill them all, like, they're all aliens, they're all butterflies, just shoot them, snipe them all, right? And he can't do it, and then of course, Vigilante does it, except of course the father then. But, yeah, they shoot them down, right? And there I feel that the guys, right, running this show is so stupid, because if they have told Peacemaker, if they actually had explained him, I understand they don't trust him, but if they had explained to him, like, okay, these are actually aliens, these like children over there, they aren't real children, right? They're like these little alien bugs in a flesh golem, you know what I mean, so on. If they have tried to explain to him whatsoever, it would be way easier for him to shoot them, right? Because he sits there in the car and is like, shoot them, Peacemaker, they aren't children, snipe them, right? Because he, of course, knows that these children aren't actually real children, right? There are some alien things inside of a flesh golem, right? So for him, it's easy to say just kill all the kids, right? Because they aren't really kids, and he knows that. So for him, it's very easy to be like, come on, do it, man. But, loser, can't even kill some kids, right? And Peacemaker is like, I don't want to shoot children. I'm the lawful killer guy. I want to kill bad people, and children usually aren't bad. So, and I like that, right? Because he has a little bit of like a PTSD for killing red flag. But generally speaking, his character doesn't really kill children, right? Because, he kills evil people, right? So it's hard for him to kill children because children hasn't done any crime yet or whatever, right? So it's hard for him to motivate assassinating two kids when, like, maybe the father's evil, but, so he has, so I think that fits his character. I think that's good, right? And they should know, and they should know, of course, that Peacemaker has that, like, lawful, extreme lawful good personality, right? So it makes complete sense that he doesn't want to kill children. And and then not telling him at all that they are real children, and just making him confused about it. Yeah, that was really stupid. And I feel that was my own one of my complaints, honestly. On the actual, again, really complained on TV show, right? Because I do think that's a little too stupid, right? That these people are like, they know his personality, they know his powers, right? They know how he works and what helmet kid he was on. Yeah, they kind of, they know kind of what he does, right? Yet they don't tell him this very obvious fact that those children over there are fake children. And they should, they should really know that he doesn't kill children, right? Normally speaking, doesn't kill children. Very, very rarely has to kill children, except that he kind of kills everyone, right? And but otherwise, he doesn't really do that. So it's like, that mistake just feels too big. Even if they don't trust him, I feel that mistake is too big because, like, how else do they think they're gonna do the mission with the guy that doesn't? Because he has he's a lawful bad guy, right? So he has to follow certain how say it, right? Conduct his like rules or whatever, right? Very important for him, right? To follow his set rules that he has set for himself, right? That's how his character works, and how it's coming to Peacemaker, right? And again, they should know that. So it's like we should probably tell him that those people are outside the rules, right? They're outside because again they're like, they're not really children. Anyway, that was pretty dumb, but it was a good vigilante scene though. It was, and then he got beaten up by a judo master. That was just kind of funny. He's mostly luchador though, but whatever. Another thing I will say though, because I did like it though, but I get some critique here. This wasn't a perfect show, I suppose. Like they had to get some critique. But I did mention earlier, episode 1 I felt was somewhat slow. It wasn't terrible, but so slow. But one thing I was thinking about when I was watching it, and I said earlier, right, you don't really have to see the movies on that much to get into it. But I do wish there was more cameos, okay? Like I wish there was more of that. I think that this show is obviously going to be compared to Marvel, right? You know, Marvel has their own WandaVision or whatever, right? And yeah, that's something I was missing out on. I don't expect Kal-El, right, to kind of fly in here. I don't expect Superman to come in or whatever. But obviously, I would like to see some other, you know, rat catchers, pretty cute or something. We shouldn't say too much here though. It's only been 3 episodes, but I definitely think that we should have a little more of these other characters, Harley Quinn or whatever, right? Yeah, someone appearing. Doesn't have to be like for a whole episode, but you know, for like 5 minutes or something, or preferably for a longer scene. But yeah, I think that's a little lack, honestly. Still 3 out of 8 episodes. I think they could have like a short cameo of one of the other DC Comics characters, or of course, they're introducing other characters, right? Kind of like how Marvel does it, right, in their TV shows. So it has like Monica Rambeau gets like in the scene, gets the powers, right? They want to kind of get in her in, you know, getting like for the spoiler, like spoiler, but you know, like the Marvel cinematic movie into the TV shows do introduce a lot of Marvel characters, right, from the comics, both big and small, right? And I think this TV show here doesn't do that much, right? These characters here, the other side characters, they're all just kind of like random, you know, government agents. Vigilante, of course, gets a lot of screen time, but the other characters, not really. So, yeah, I think that honestly for me is like, as a big nerd, right? As having read all these comics, I would love to see random DC, both bad guys and good guys. I mean, I guess Judo Master is there, but still, you know, like more of that, you know. And the difference, of course, that Judo Master has a very focal point episode 3. So that's fine. But what I'm talking about, I guess primarily is more like cameos, right? Where maybe here's this character, I don't know, Captain Boomerang is back. He's like dead, right? But Captain Boomerang is back for like 5 minutes, you know, and then leaves or something. Something like that, right? Yeah. Shark can come back. He's played by the same guy. You know. Yeah, the guy that plays, I don't remember his name now. But the guy that plays Economus, he's the one that also played King Shark, right? Like he played, I think he played, what's it called? The CGI mock-up suit guy. The guy that was wearing the CGI mock-up suit. I think he's playing, isn't he? I'm shitting here looking at Wikipedia, but I'm pretty sure he's the King. Yeah, he's King Shark. Yeah, Steve Age is his name. Steve Age. Yeah, he plays King Shark. So, for example, right? Why couldn't King Shark do a cameo for 3-4 minutes? Because yeah, the actual King Shark actor is there, so he's the CGI actor, right? Yeah, he's in the TV show. Stuff like that, right? Honestly, but I hope that is something they're gonna do more in the coming episode, I guess, because I think that is one of those things that, as talked about in my Spider-Man movie review I did last week, I think that stuff like that, right, is so important for the classic comic books, right, both for Marvel and DC. Because one thing that unfortunately movies and TV shows doesn't really do very well, right, and this is also for Marvel, also this is something, both of them, is of course in the comics it's so easy for them to be like, oh, here's Spider-Man, you know, oh, here's Batman, he comes in this book here, or here's, you know, Robin, or here's like Nighthawk or whatever, right, you know, here's this character, right, and it's so easy for them, of course, in a comics way, right, to throw in a character every now and then. Oh, you need to fight the aliens? Oh, but let's go and get this guy, he's gonna get alien. Oh, you need to fight this, like, you know, I don't know, symbiotes. Okay, here's this character. He can scream at them, so that's pretty good, I guess. Symbiotes. Oh, here's this guy, you know. So in the comics, right, in both of these companies, they're so easy, or I mean compared to the movies, right, it's so easy for them to use, like, throw in characters, right? And that's why both this comic and Marvel feels alive, right, when you read them, and also the cartoons, right? They feel alive because, yeah, suddenly here's this character helping out, right, for like 2 episodes, and then he leaves. And here's this character, or I need to have, you know, I need to be healed by someone, right? Okay, let me go to this character, famous healer, or for example, then if you look at DC, then Constantine now, Hellblazer. I have the comics, so yeah, Hellblazer, classic character, right? Who do you go to, right, in DC comics when you need some, you know, occult experience? I go to John Constantine, you know what I mean? So then he's still there for like maybe 3 episodes, right, and then leaves, and so on. So they're very much better than that, right? And that is something that I feel is lacking in these TV shows and movies, right? that they have way too few actual characters, right? And here so far we have been 0 characters, 3 episodes of 8. So that's for me at least, as a a huge, it's a huge comic nerd. For me, that's one of those bigger issues I have. I'm like, come on, man, I want to see more characters. I want to see some references. I want to see more of references, right? I want to see, I don't know, Peacemaker having a weapon from Deadshot. I want to see, I picked this up from Bloodsport so I can use it or whatever. Right? I want to see that kind of stuff, yeah. But maybe it's gonna happen a lot further on. Who knows? Otherwise, not much that I disliked in this TV show at all, except that episode 1 was slow. I think episode 1 was slow, certainly. 2 and 3 were much better. But I don't think episode 1 was bad. And as I mentioned earlier, I didn't think it was terrible, right? Because it did introduce like his father and so on. So we need to have some a little bit of a build-up episode, right? But certainly it was. It felt like the TV show really took off, right, when he had the sex scene. Yeah, and after that, yeah, that was like the bam, and now everything started happening. So it certainly felt that that's my biggest complaint, absolutely. That until that moment, it was like, it's pretty slow, has some good jokes, but no, it's not fantastic. And then it's like bam, and then it's like action. Then I was like, okay, now the TV show really starts. But anyway, subscribe with that like button. I'll see you guys now with My Dress Up Darling. A very different kind of show, but much better. About the best girl ever, Marin-chan. That's it for today, guys, because I said here, briefly, right? I didn't like any show last Saturday, okay? Like last Saturday, right, I did like 3-4 first impressions, right, of different shows, like the new Isekai about the time traveling show, whatever. Fantasy show, the Arnold's copy show as well, and I just felt they were all pretty terrible, except of course My Dress Up Darling or Dress Up Doll, with Marin. That show is amazing. It's an amazing show. I love this show. It's like my top best girl this year, right? But the other, all the Saturday show, I was like just massively disappointed. Yeah, at this show here, Peacemaker, much better than any of those shows, except of course again with Marin, because that's a really good show. But the other ones, the other 3-4 shows on Saturday felt really bad, like really bad. So I'm thinking I'm honestly gonna skip all of them and just watch Marin on Saturdays going forward. Also, reason why doing this here, right, the Peacemaker. I was like, I wanna do something today in the morning. And there's no anime to watch because they're all terrible. So the one is left. Yeah, I'm really disappointed this year so far, right, because there are some new good shows, don't get me wrong, but there are also, I think, a lot of bad new shows. Or, it's more like this, I think most of the new shows, honestly, are in anime here then, are very mid, right? They're very mid, yeah. It's not like I really truly like, this is the worst show ever, but it's just like, it's pretty boring, it's pretty bad, like bad animation, bad studio and so on. So anyway, guys, see you guys with My Dress Up Doll. That obviously is my favorite show this season, so that's awesome. Then I see you guys and have a great day.